A to the T to the H. Math is awesome. Mr. Ng's videos teach you a lot about math and to show your work, because if you don't show your work, then that's cheating, and we don't do cheating.
Hey guys, let's go over your Module 1 test. This is versions A, B, and D. Sorry for the clicking sound of my pencil. I have to use my backup pen. Which is the graph of f of x equals a squared plus 4x plus 2. If you write standard form right above it, you'll get that your a value is nothing there, so that is a 1, which means the graph opens up. So that would be, the only graph would be this one here. Also, you'll know that your c value is your y-intercept. Your c value is your y-intercept. Let's figure out the axis of symmetry. That is a formula of x equals negative b over 2a. So your b value there is 4. Your a value is 1. You'll get negative 2. And that would be a line down here. This one has it, and this one does not. Question number 2, free response. What is the average rate of change of the function? So remember, average rate of change is a fancy word for slope. If you kind of just quickly did a simple graph, this is, and just x, let's just say your graph looks like this. What you're trying to find there is between 1 and 5, say this point. And let's just say this is 5. Let's say this point. Basically, you're finding the slope of the blue line. So you can evaluate separately. Which basically means this is your x1, this is your x2. So they're not, it's not a order pair there, nor it's an interval. It's not an order pair, it's an interval. So f of x1 value I'm just going to take and repeat it because we're going to do that for your next one. Whoops. Let's see. That didn't work. All right. So my x1 value is 1. And then we're just going to simplify here. 1 squared is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. I'm using PEMDAS here. And you'll get 1 comma 7. All right, let's go ahead and do now the x2 value. And the x2 value is 5. So 5 squared is 25. 3 times 5 is 15. That's 100 plus 15. So f of 5 equals 115. And that is the order pair 5 comma 115. And now we're going to use our slope, or average rate of change. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. And don't forget it has a minus sign. Use substitution with parentheses. So y2 value is 115 minus 7. x2 value is 5 minus 1. So this will give us 108 over 4. 4 goes into 10 2 times. 8 to 8, 28 divided by 4 is 7. So my answer for slope is 27. The average rate of change is 27. Question number 3, complete the table of values for this problem here. And you can just evaluate. I'll just do it one time, and then you can use Desmos. -3 squared plus -3 minus 3. So that'd be 9 minus 3 minus 3. So that would give us 3. So when I put in -3, my output is 3. Put that into Desmos. Let me put in the function. Y equals x squared plus x minus 3. And then I click on the gear, and then I want a table of values. So those are the numbers that I want to fill out. Take a picture of those. Or just write it down. -2, -1, -1, -3, 0, -3, 1, -1, 2, 3. And if you want other values that are on there, for example, -3, you can just type it in and you'll get a value. Let's just say I wanted +3. It'll get the answer for you, 9. Okay, let's go back. So -3, 3, -2, -1, -3, 0, -3, 1, -1, 2, 3, and 3, 9. And that makes sense because if you graphed it, left 3, up 3, left 2, down -1, -1, -3, 0, -3, right 1, down -1, right 2, up 3, and then 3, 9, which is off the graph. Multiple choice, use the graph to find all the solutions. So the solutions are going to be where it crosses the x-axis, okay? Well, those are these green points here, the best to my ability. And this one on the right side is between numbers 1 and 2. This one is between -2 and -3. So that would be choice E. Number 4, we need to simplify this one. So the temptation, let's write that, don't do, is to do something like this. And then negative times negative is a positive, so you do 25 times 81. And then you multiply those and you would solve that. So don't do that. You want to evaluate these separately. So square root of -1 times 25 times square root of -1 times 81. A fact you need to know is I is equal to the square root of -1. So that's going to become here and here. Square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 81 is 9. And then if you square this, you get I squared equals -1. So I times I is I squared, and I squared is -1. 4 times 5 is 45. So your answer is going to be -45. What is one of the solutions? I'm going to show you guys how to do this one by factoring. You could also use this by quadratic formula, the longest, and then number 3, which would be square root method, which is probably the fastest. I'll go longest to slowest. So x equals -b, so x squared plus 0x plus 16. So your b value is 0. Plus or minus 0 squared minus 4 times a times your c value, which is 16. All over 2 times 1. So opposite of 0 is 0. I'm not going to add or subtract 0, so that kind of goes away here in yellow. So now I have plus or minus 0 minus 64. So that's just 4 extra 2, yeah, negative 64 over 2. That'll reduce to 8i over 2. So x equals plus or minus 4i. And that would only be choice A. If you chose this by factoring, same thing. A times C is 16. My B value is 0. We haven't really done this, but it is possible. Two numbers that multiply to be 16 and add to be 0. So that would be 4i and negative 4i. Negative times a positive is negative. So negative 4 times 4 is 16, and I times I is I squared. So that becomes positive 16. So you would get x plus 4i, x minus 4i, set those equal to 0, and solve. Same thing on that side, you'll get negative positive. The easiest method is just using x squared plus 16 equals 0. The square root method or square root property is only when you have A and C. Subtract 16 from both sides. Take the square root. When you take the square root, your next step is going to be plus or minus. These cancel. X equals plus or minus 4i. And that'll be your two choices there. All right, question number 6, electricity. What is the voltage of an electronic circuit with current C of 2? So they're saying C equals 2 minus J. And an impedance I, or maybe L, equals 3 plus 2J. We're going to use the formula V equals CL. And so if I know that C is equal to 2 minus J, and L is equal to 3 plus 2J, and I is equal to J, or imaginary is equal to J. Let's go ahead and simplify that. So this is either foil or the box. I'm going to show you guys my box. Two minus I, so no longer am I going to write I's, I'm going to write J's. 3 plus 2I. We're going to multiply, and then we're going to add or combine like terms. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2i is 4i. 3 times negative I is negative 3i. And negative I times 2i is going to be negative 2i squared. So I'm going to get 6 plus 4i minus 3i minus 2i squared. Now we're going to, I squared is equal to negative 1. 4 minus 3i is just 1i. 6 plus 1i plus 2, so that would just give you 8 plus I, or 8 plus j, which would be choice A. Number 7 says to solve the quadratic formula. Solve the quadratic equation. I'm going to highlight where it says solve. There's multiple ways you can do this. Factoring, quadratic formula, graphing, square root, or completing the square. I think factoring is the easiest and fastest one, but doesn't always work. A times C is negative 20. My B value is 8. If I think about all the numbers that multiply to be 20, 2, that's negative. So x plus 10, x minus 2 equals 0. In here, the green here is what we would call the factored form, but they're asking us to solve. So solve means set it equal to 0. X plus 10 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0. Subtract 10, x equals negative 10 and 2. That means the only choice we have is B. Number 8, it's telling me to use the square root property to find one of the solutions. Okay, this is already factored for us, so I just need to factor it. A, B's, and C's, A times C. It's going to be 36. B value is negative 12. My two numbers are going to be 6 and 6. They're the same expression, so I could put those together. Perfect square trinomial. The expression on the left side is now isolated, so I could take the square root. When I do the square root, I'm going to have plus or minus. This goes away. And if I add 6, it's going to go to the left. X equals 6 plus or minus 8. So 6 plus 8 is 14. 6 minus 8 is negative 2. And that'll give us choice A. Number 9, solve by completing the square. I have x squared minus 8x equals 1. We need this c value. C value is by completing the square, b over 2 squared. So my b value is negative 8. Half of negative 8 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. If I put 16 here, then I'm going to have to put 16 there on that side. So my equation looks like this now. And I can just factor that. A times c now is 16. My b value is negative 8. Those two numbers are negative 4. So negative 4, negative 4. And then I can just solve by the square root property. Put them together, power of 2, quantity 2, square root. So x minus 4 is square root of 17, and then add 4. My answer is x equals 4 plus or minus radical 17. That's an exact answer. And not multiple choice. For your response, I gotta show my work. All right, question number 10 tells me to use the quadratic formula. My A is 5, my B value is 3, and C value is negative 1. I'm gonna write out the quadratic formula. X equals negative B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. My B value is 3, use parentheses. My A value is 5, and my C value is negative 1. And my A value is 5. Okay. 3 squared is 9. Pay attention, negative 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Negative 20 times negative 1 is positive 20. So it's going to look like that. 2 times 5 is 10. And this would be my exact answer. You cannot break down square root of 29. Number 11, a projectile and arrow is launched upwards. The height of the arrow in meters after t seconds can be modeled by the function. After how many seconds will the arrow reach an altitude of 100? So this is 100. When is it going to pass? First reaches it. So let's say I have an arrow and it's launched at 1. So this is what I'm thinking about. And they want to know what that point is. So I can just copy the equation. H of t equals negative 4.9 t squared plus 100t plus 1. Well, they want the height to be at 100. So h of t equals 100. And I'm going to change these to x's. So x is equal to time, y is going to be equal to height. If I subtract 100, and I can just put that equation in. Let me write that down. So negative 4.9 x squared plus 100 x minus 99. Let's go to Desmos field trip. Negative 4.9 x squared plus 100x plus 1. Okay, that's what my graph looks like. Let's see. There it is. I'm just pinching it to... And it's kind of hard to get your graph on there, so you can just change the parameters. Let's see how high that sucker goes. Okay, 600 and goes about to 20. So x-axis maybe like negative 1. As it goes to 22, step by 1. Y-axis probably around negative 1, just barely underneath. And we set around 650, and it'll count by 50s. See if that helps. Okay, so we got a nice graph here. And the height of that graph is 511. And that's pretty much 0, 0. And that's about 20.418. So, well, I forgot to subtract. Okay. So if I put in 1.043, that is when I put in the x value into that function, I get a height of 0. Now, the goal of that is if you originally put in 1.043, what did we say? Let's just round up. 1.04 squared plus 100, 1.04, and then we add 1. It's pretty much 100. So when x is 1.04 seconds, which would be A would be our correct answer. Number 12, what is the solution set here? So on this problem, I'm just going to factor it. I'm going to factor out negative x. And then when we solve this, we're going to get negative x equals 0, divided by negative 1, x equals 0, and x equals negative 2. So if I graph this, okay, I have these 2 points, and yeah, it goes down. We want values that are greater than 0. Now, what you can do is you can test these. So let's test, let's say -3 is my test point. If I put in -3 here, I think it's easier putting into the factored one. Is that true? So opposite of -3 is 3. -3 plus 2 is -1, so that's -3 is -3 greater than 0. This would be false. Okay, so let's try something now inside here. Let's try -1, because this is -2 and this is 0. So same thing, -1 times -1 plus 2. -1 plus 2 gives me +1. And I see a mistake. That's why. Did someone see my mistake? It is right here. So -x times x is x, -x squared, -x times -2 would give me +2x. So this would have to be a +2. Okay, that just means I change my parabola over here. Okay, so that new point is 2. And let's test, let's just test it by changing that symbol. So -2 is still valid. This would give me -5, so -15, so that's still false. Let's test now +1 inside here. So 1 minus 2 would give you -1, 1 greater than or equal to 0. This would be true. So this region is true, which means you shade it. This is no shade because this is false over here. And let's double check by testing 3. We tested 1. -1. We tested +1. But you need the opposite of that. So that was right. Okay. So the opposite of 3 is -3. 3 minus 2. -3 is 1. -3 is bigger than or equal to 0. This is false. So everywhere in this direction over here, this is false. And so the only interval is between 0 and 2, including it because it's a solid and you're including that inequality, so A is your correct answer. Number 13, let me just set these equal to y. So y plus 3x squared equals 32. Y equals -3x squared plus 32. Y is equal to x squared minus 4, so you don't need that. So x squared minus 4 equals -3x squared plus 32. You can move them to either side, but I'd rather have a positive a value. Whoops. And subtract 32. See what happens. I'm going to get 4x squared minus 36 equals 0. Factor out a 4. And if you factor this, you'll get x plus 3, x minus 3. Set those each equal to 0. That's not true. And then you have -3 and 3 is our answers. Okay, so now that I need to I have to test these solutions. Which is one of the solutions in number 13? Okay, so what I would do in this problem is, let's test -3. Y equals x squared minus 4. And if I put in -3, I should get 9 minus 4 is 5. So if x is -3, then y is equal to 5, which I have here. You'll notice that none of these has a second one of +3, so E is your correct answer. And those were the solutions. See you.
Do you want to learn to love math again? Go to Mr. Ng's website or to his YouTube channel. He will teach you to learn to love math again. Mr. Ng, the #1 math teacher in the whole world.